Hi, beautiful people. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for stopping by. So imagine this. You only have 10 minutes to get your makeup done for Thanksgiving Sunday. You really want to look your best, but you're on a time crunch. You're wondering, what product do I even need to use? What step can I skip? Which ones are actually necessary if I still want my makeup to look so nice? Well, don't worry. I'm your girl. I'll be dropping my makeup tips here and also share one of my random thoughts. But first, let's get to the makeup tips. Today's makeup is quite easy and simple to follow. My skin is already prepped. I've already done my skincare beforehand, so we are going straight in with foundation. One thing I've always reminded myself is that makeup isn't about changing who you are. It's simply about enhancing what you already have. God isn't impressed by makeup or fancy clothes. He looks at the heart. But sometimes, putting yourself together is simply a way of showing up with excellence for an occasion that is special to you. So I'm skipping a foundation brush and I'm blending my foundation out really well with a damp beauty blender, making sure everything melts seamlessly into my skin. I don't like a cakey finish, so I take my time blending because a well blended base honestly makes all the difference. Next, I'm going in with my concealer. I only use one that is about a shade lighter than my skin tone because I just want to brighten the areas light naturally hits my face. Basically my T-zone, that's my under eye, the bridge of my nose, my forehead and my chin. Nothing too dramatic, just enough to bring dimension back into my face. Now, I know a lot of people like to use cream contour and cream blush and they absolutely look beautiful. But because we are trying to save time, we are going straight with a powder contour and powder blush. Trust me, they still get the job done and they are much quicker when you're working on only 10 minutes. Anyway, once that's done, I move on to a quick nose contour, nothing too dramatic as well. Then I add my pink blush to bring some warmth into my face. After that, I set everywhere I applied my concealer. Since my T-zone is where I tend to get the oiliest, I make sure I press a little extra powder into those areas. You can see how smooth my face looks already, no harsh lines whatsoever. Then I move on to my brows. I like to keep them simple and natural. I use a spoolie to first brush them upwards so I can easily trace my lines. I start outlining them from the tail and gradually walk up my way towards the front because I like the front of my brows to look softer and less harsh. To clean them up, I only conceal the underneath of my brows and I use a foundation instead of a lighter concealer. I found that the foundation blends into my skin much more effortlessly, which saves me time. I conceal with a precise angle brush and I clean off with a fluffy brush. I also don't conceal the top of my brows. That's one of the reasons I always make sure my brow pencil is nice and sharp before I start. It helps me get a cleaner line from the beginning so I don't even have to spend time correcting them later. For my eyes, I'm keeping things nice and simple with a brown eyeshadow. Brown is one of those shades that is timeless, effortless and practically goes with almost every outfit. Then I'm adding just a touch of gold shimmer to the center of my lid. It takes just a few seconds and it instantly brightens the eyes and makes the whole look feel a little more polished without adding extra work. Now for eyeliner, that one step that still manages to scare me every single time. Please tell me I'm not the only one. You think after this time that I would have mastered it, but every time I pick up my eyeliner, it's a leap of faith. Now it's time for my lips. I chose these different shades of red and I'm using one to line my outer lips and the other one for the inner corners. The excess around my edges, I'm using my foundation instead of a concealer because I don't want the edges to look too bright. I prefer everything to blend naturally into my skin. Then I finish everything off with my setting spray and my locking spray. Now while that's drying up, I apply my highlighter. So that's that for my makeup. So let me talk about my random thoughts. Let me just tell you. Sometimes I imagine what life would have been like if I had been born during the time Jesus walked the earth. Yes, I know it's crazy. And honestly, there are moments when I wish I had been. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine hearing him preach in person, watching him heal the sick with your own eyes? Imagine sitting among the thousands listening to him. I always find myself saying, Lord, what an incredible privilege that would have been. Then I ask myself, who would he have been? Would he have recognized him for who he is and become one of his followers proclaiming his gospel? Would he have rejected him and despised him? And the one that humbles me the most, would I have heard about him and just be indifferent? Just moving about my day like it didn't matter. Honestly, I don't know. For generations, the Israelites had been waiting for the promised Messiah. They had read the prophecies, they were longing for the day God would send his anointed one. But somewhere along the line, many people formed the picture in their mind of what the Messiah would look like. They expected a mighty king, someone who would come and overthrow the Roman Empire and restore Israel to power. Then Jesus came, not born in a palace, but in a manger, not raised as a prince, but as the son of a carpenter. He spoke about serving instead of ruling, about forgiving instead of taking revenge, about loving your enemies. He wasn't the Messiah many people expected. And that is what makes me stop and think, because I know myself. I'm someone who loves plan, I love structure, I like schedules. I naturally picture how things are supposed to happen. So sometimes I ask myself, if I had spent so much time expecting one version of the Messiah, would I have been humble enough to recognize him when he came differently? Or would I have been so attached to my own expectations that I would have missed him? That question keeps me humble, honestly. Because the truth is, we still do the same today. Maybe not with Jesus physically walking the earth, but with how we expect God to move. We pray for something and already imagine how God should answer. We ask God for a job and we've already decided which company it should be. We pray for marriages, healing, and we've already decided how God should perform and how God should make it happen. But God doesn't always follow our scripts. His ways are totally higher and different from ours. Sometimes we're looking for a king and God sends a carpenter. Sometimes we're looking for something loud while God just chooses to walk quietly. Sometimes we're expecting a miracle and God answers through a completely different door. And because it doesn't look the way we imagined, we almost miss what he's doing. That is why I think this thought challenges me so much. It reminds me not to judge the people in the Bible too quickly because I wasn't there. Instead, it encourages me to examine my own heart. Because before you and I were ever born, God had already decided the generation we would live in. He could have placed me in the generation that watched Jesus perform miracles with their own eyes, but he didn't. In his wisdom, he chose this generation for me. And honestly, I'm grateful. So instead of wishing I was born in a different generation, I'm learning to be thankful for the one God intentionally chose for me. Because maybe the question isn't who would I have been if I had lived then, but who am I now? Am I recognizing Jesus in my own generation? Am I spending time in his words? Am I listening when he corrects me? Am I obeying him even when his plans don't look like mine? Am I willing to let go of my expectations so I can embrace his will? Those are the questions I want to keep asking myself, and I hope our answers to these questions align with God's purpose for us. Anyway, my makeup is finally done. I know that was a deep thought. My makeup is finally done, and all I have left now is my accessories. I went with simple gold earrings, my bracelets, and a few other pieces because I felt they pulled the entire look together. The only thing I couldn't decide on was my hair. I first tried this fluffy hairstyle and I honestly thought it was really pretty, but because I was wearing this bold red lippy, I wondered if the whole look was becoming way too busy. So I switched to this sleek straight hairstyle instead, and it immediately gave the look a softer, cleaner feel. But then, while I was editing this video, I started questioning my decision all over again. Now I genuinely don't know which one I prefer, so I'll let you decide. Which hairstyle do you think suited this look better, the fluffy one or the thick straight one? And while you're answering that, I also love to hear your thoughts on everything we talked about today. Have you ever found yourself wondering what it would have been like to live during Jesus' earthly ministry? If so, what do you think is the biggest lesson you can learn from that today? I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for staying with me. God bless you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.